Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation. I'm Blaze, and we're going to be bringing you guys a game between Mouz Sports and Team Liquid. This is Game 2 of this Best of 3 series. First one going to Team Liquid, playing a very nice, aggressive, active style that we all know and love from them. But Mouz Sports still played pretty well themselves, and now they're going to be looking to change it up a little bit to put some points on the board themselves. But as per usual, I am joined by Vickermond here. How's it going, man?
It's going well, Blaze. That first game, I'm not gonna lie, it felt like Mouz got a little bit downloaded. Like, right from the draft phase and going up into the game, everything Liquid did seemed not only strong in a vacuum, but strong against Mouz in particular. I mean, they know that of the top-tier European teams, Mouz is probably the one closest to that traditional 4-protect-1 style, where they really focus on getting black that farm. And Liquid just effectively pinched their game plan in every respect. They generated pressure on the off lane to make sure Koikwa couldn't provide that sort of screen for black at all. They actually had a lot of trouble getting Korok up in the mid, but they effectively shored that up because as soon as they won the bottom lane, they rotated IX Mike and Fluff over just in time to actually turn around a huge gank attempt from Mouz. And from that point on, Mouz just seemed totally adrift. Like, their game plan was stuffed in that instant of trying to keep Korok down, and from that point, they just couldn't make a decision that actually did anything against Liquid's advance. And for this one, they'll have to switch something up. I feel like I was about to say I would like to not see Fata Magnus, because I don't think it's the strongest hero in terms of actually making a huge game impact in the early to mid game, which is where I think Mouz need him. But they do go with the Magnus again. I mean, Fata has played Magnus a lot. He's certainly not bad with it. It's just, I haven't found it personally as spectacular as maybe his Queen of Pain, for instance. But maybe they can make it work.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing for them to be looking at right now is with this draft from Team Liquid, they already have their tri-lane pretty well founded with the Keeper Light, with the Lifestealer here. So if they go and opt for something along the lines of a Puck for their third pick here for the mid, that would pretty much atrociously destroy the Magnus. Always being able to be able to phase shift on out of those shockwaves and things like that. There's so many opportunities to outplay in the 1v1 matchup, and then when it breaks out into that team fight, a simple Blink Dagger can either make sure Dream Coil or Winning Rift prevents Magnus from initiating until halfway through the fight. But they actually pick it up for themselves. They know that risk, they know that danger, and I think it's a very, very wise pick for Mouz Sports, knowing that with that Keeper Light, with the Lifestealer, if they didn't pick up the Puck here, they would be having to fight against it, and it's just not something that they want. But as far as laning, the Magnus, the Puck, they both like solos. Are we going to see an offlane Koikwa Puck, do you think?
It's tough to say. I actually would expect to see Fata on the Puck, probably. And then they have the option of running Magnus either solo safe or solo hard. More likely to be solo safe, although with the Jakiro, I'm not sure. So Alex does play Jakiro. We've seen him do quite well with it, especially back in the day when Jakiro was more ubiquitous just due to Ice Path being ridiculously overpowered. But this is still a strong hero, especially with particular, like obviously Magnus and Puck both help out the plan of keeping people in place for the Jakiro to do work. And we'll just have to see how they actually pan this out, because Jakiro not the greatest of aggressive tri-lane heroes, just because of his extremely bad movement speed and the importance of mobility in a try versus try situation. It's interesting about the laning. I still think they'll probably run Puck mid and Magnus on a solo, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely can run that there. It's just it's a little more difficult, but if they get the right bans in, if they don't have to worry about a Shadow Demon or a Rubik to mess up with that skewer, it's still possible to suicide the Magnus. It's just I obviously don't see it as more stable, more reliable. I mean, they definitely need to find lockdown for this Lifestealer. Puck is great as a pseudo ban, making sure Team Liquid doesn't have it in their hands, as well as great to set up a team fight by silencing out heroes like Lion and such like that, but Lifestealer could care less. Unless he gets caught off guard by the Waning Rift, if he has Rage active, Puck does almost nothing to him. So this is a position where they have to make sure they're prioritizing the heroes that can accomplish that lockdown. That means either drafting up a Bane coming out in this next round, or it means making sure Magnus does get levels in RP, because Reverse Polarity is one of the few ultimates that scales its disable duration based on how many times you rank it. So rank 1 RP generally isn't going to fit the bill when we come into maybe 25-30 minutes in the game and Lifestealer is kind of rampaging on around. So we'll have to see, but right now Mouz Sports is going to opt for banning out Korok's heroes, where Team Liquid just completely goes towards Gung Ho banning out Blacks, and so that's going to be pretty clear cut. But other than that, I mentioned the Bane. Do you think that's going to slip through, and if so, is that something that they're going to be looking at, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would expect to see the Bane go through, and I also probably would expect Mouse to take him fourth in that case.
Hmm.
Just because Mouse certainly isn't going to ban it. I don't think TL's going to ban it because they're hyper focused on taking out Black's top heroes, which I like. I like this approach. TL, you can see that their bans have actually been, if they ban PL right now, which they might not actually, but if they do, this would be the exact same 5 bans in both games. And this is what I'm talking about with the research. Like, they sort of know if we face Mouse Sports, these are the heroes we'll ban, unless something really weird happens. And I think so far it's paid off very well for them. Mouse Sports sort of a little bit more, less focused of a ban phase. They were just like, oh, Nyx Assassin was really good against us last game. We should take him out this time. But then TL just picks up Lion for fluff and stuff, he's been playing a lot lately, and gives you a little bit of that same feeling that you get from the Nyx. I mean, some burst damage, a big stunning, ganking presence, etc., etc.
Yeah, so the Shadow Demon and the Bane were the two main supports that could have been taken out here. The big thing right now is whether or not Mouse Sports opts to pick up the Phantom Lance themselves. This is what Team Liquid must have been debating for themselves, 3 different things to take out. They could ban out the Phantom Lance or the Bane or the Shadow Demon. Essentially, I think they would have maybe... Yeah, I mean, they needed their carry, and they needed to get something that worked well with Keeper of Light, so that definitely works, but they still have a few options open. The deal is they're going to be up against that Bane, and it is going to be something that they can't rely solely on Lifestealer to make things happen here, so they might be looking for something along the lines of a dual core, maybe pick up a Lone Druid for the offlane and have Bubba pick that up, or could be going for one of many other heroes that are much more oriented towards his forte.
I would still love Darkseer, actually. I think Darkseer would be just fine in this game. Vacuum people into something, and then just... Oh, they do go for Lone Druid, so I was wrong. So no Darkseer this game. One of those rare games in which nobody actually picks him up.
Yeah, but I think it's appropriate in this situation, and it's because of the dual core aspect that I was mentioning. Bane is amazing single target. He's amazing at screwing over one person hardcore, whether through Enfeeble, whether through the Fiend's Grip. The Nightmare can do good work in certain situations and do almost nothing in others, but in this position here with Lone Druid having damage source from himself, from his Spirit Bear, and also from Lifestealer, Team Liquid has a lot of different things that can deal with the fact Bane is going to be looking for that lockdown, and especially if you get a Hex on the Fiend's Grip or something like that, suddenly their team fight isn't all that scary. You just need to survive, need to keep the light a well-timed mechanism, and from there they still can engage very, very nicely with some raw, single-target physical damage.
Yeah, I mean, I love TL's lineup. I think it's really, really solid. Lone Druid maybe not the most Bulba-esque hero just in terms of his ability to randomly appear in a fight and start generating lots of kills, but it is very, very, very strong. And you're absolutely right. It's a double threat that the Bane's going to have difficulty dealing with, and I think it was also a good call. Mouz do spring for that PL. So once again, I mean, we're going to have a similar situation to last time where the PL, they're going to try to keep away from the PL, screen for him and try to make sure that the puck can sort of counter any early gank attempts coming out from TL, and just sort of try to extend it to the point at which the Phantom Lancer becomes difficult to deal with. Lifestealer Lone Druid, not the best PL cleanup crew later on, just because they sort of, their Battle Fury is not a typical item for them. They can both get Mjolnir, but even that sometimes isn't enough to stop the illusions. But the flip side is, I don't think this Mouse Sports lineup is full of good tools to actually prevent the PL from dying early on. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it just feels like, at least last game, there was the theory that if Koikwa could find the levels in some farm on the Lone Druid, he would provide enough of a threat that TL wouldn't be able to go on Black, but I just don't see that on anybody on Mouse this time.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It really depends on how the laning phase works out. If Team Liquid wants to opt for an aggressive tri lane, it's not necessarily what you would expect, but up against a carry like Phantom Lancer, sometimes you have to kind of cut your losses and just put that emphasis there right off the bat. But if it's just TC, no, I think it's going to be actually TC safe lane Lone Druid, because he plays Lone Druid so darn well, but he doesn't like to really just suicide in the off lane, especially not against a Bane, who can just Nightmare the Bear and screw over any creep aggro shenanigans that he's trying to pull. So in this situation here, I think it's going to be an interesting setup, but we are going to see TC running on the Lone Druid solo Beastmaster picked up by Bulba, and then Korok's actually going to be playing the #1 role with this Lifestealer. So I'm smelling an aggressive tri lane personally, and the question is whether or not Alex's ice paths are going to be on point enough. I'm confident in Paz in how he's going to play the Bane, but those ice paths, I don't know, might be considered hit and miss. It might be considered a situation where just gotta say they're so crucial. If you miss a single ice path, suddenly Phantom Lancer is gonna have that much harder of a time farming. So I think this is gonna be very aggressive in the laning phase, but it's not 100%. I might be judging this wrong, but right now it seems like they're definitely making their move towards the bottom.
No, I definitely think, because once again, I feel like it's similar to last game in that it's a game of levels. If Koikwo hits fast RP, and actually if they hit a pretty timely level 6 on Jakiro, RP Macropyre will actually make it very, very difficult for Liquid to win fights early. If it lands on 3 of their heroes, that they're just going to melt away. But if Liquid has a game as good as they had last time, where it takes forever for Jakiro and Bane to actually find any levels, so you don't have that Fiend's Grip, you don't have that Macropyre, and you don't have a good ice paths, I just don't see anything happening for Mouz at all. And they're just going to have to play very, very carefully, especially in this 3 versus 3 lane early, to make sure that they are able to, in particular, find the levels for their heroes, get Black sort of at a decent pace, and just sort of keep the pressure from Liquid off of them. I also just quickly wanted to say I love the Beastmaster pickup. In addition to just being solid overall, there's so much cute and stupid stuff you can do with this hero. Doubly so when there happens to be a lifestealer on your team, because you can hide him inside the bird, you can just you can get your Aghanims and just initiate from a million yards away. I mean, it's just a strong hero. It's one Boba likes playing, and it's that triple threat that Liquid brings, where each of their sort of 1 through 3 players can go up in the middle if they want, or they can play the carry, or they can play offlane, or what have you.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting here. TC actually duking it out with Alex directly, has that haste run, so feels confident in his position here. But yeah, I really liked what you're talking about there with their kind of flexibility of it might be a little bit cheesy, but it's very, very effective, and how they can actually put Korok and Bulba in interesting positions. I mean, if he goes for something like a Boots of Travels, and you put some Nakes on that plane of the Hawk there, they're actually going to be able to go on in and just deliver a lot of unexpected damage where they can get pickoffs on Black. And although Black is generally going to be one to be well aware of the threat, when it comes out like that, it's hard to be prepared at all different angles.
Nake's on a plane is pretty good. Did you just come up with that?
No, I've run it, I've used that like 5 or 6 times.
Okay,
it's pretty awesome.
It's pretty good. You should definitely keep using it. I don't know, I haven't heard that before, but it's good. It's good stuff. All right. I mean, I just don't know. We do have to look towards the 3 versus 3 lane. I think this is where the action is going to be, especially early. It's possible for Fata to actually kill Bulba, because Puck is pretty good and actually can kill the Beastmaster, especially early. So we do have to watch that, but I don't think, even if he kills him, or even if he kills him twice, I actually don't think the material impact on the game is that much. What happens in the tri-lane, the 3 versus 3, is actually what's going to set the tone for the game for like 30 or so minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that Fata, being a rather skilled puck player himself, has a lot of potential to make things happen with this hero. I'm just afraid that the lineup that has been picked up against him doesn't really care all that much. They get Dream Coil in position, even a great Waning Rift, and they're not really crippled. They can still fight, they can still stand their ground, right. And although they have to spread out as much as possible on the outer ring of the Dream Coil to make sure they don't get reverse polarity, they're still a team that can, pop the Rage, they have a beefy Beastmaster, and with a good mechanism and Blinding Light, they're suddenly in a position to still take that engagement despite powerful initiation.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, and it speaks to what I think is a little bit of a bigger question, which is, what is the value overall of these sort of pseudo-denial picks? And I actually think it's not that high, and they're somewhat overrated. Like, when you know the other team has an amazing puck, for instance, like Korok, and you're just like, oh, well, we'll pick the puck so that we don't have to ban it. Oh, actually, we might get first...
no, they've been kind of duking it back and forth, but I don't think that it's really going to net any kills just yet.
Right. Alright, so what I was saying is that if you're Mouz and you're like, well, Fata's a pretty good puck player, and Korok is a scary puck player, so we'll just pick the puck. I just don't know that it fits. It's not that crucial to their game plan. There's nobody on Liquid that's like, oh no, I got silenced, this game is over. So, unlike if you're sort of picking it up against a Magnus, for instance, where it can actually make the difference. I heard somebody say earlier, and I think it was LD, and they were discussing sort of Eastern versus Western drafting styles. And one of their criticisms of teams like Mouz is that they'll pick a bunch of good heroes, and heroes that their players are good with, but it doesn't quite gel into an overall game plan. And that would be my one criticism of Mouz's draft here, is what is the overall game plan being advanced here, other than, okay, Black stays alive, gets big, and we win?
Exactly. That's literally their game plan, and that might be a little bit short-sighted. The puck doesn't really fit into that as well as I would like it to. They're not counteracting a blink or a huge cast-oriented hero. They're just kind of getting some good damage in, some potential to go for pickoffs early. I think it'll work nicely, but when you compare that to Liquid, who have good control of this bottom lane with Lion and the keeper like to start things off, Korok is actually really doing well in last hits comparatively. 12 last hits himself compared to Black's 6. So they already have a good game plan starting off for the laning phase, but branching out into the mid game, they have a lot more potential for some interesting play. Actually, this is a bad spot for Alex. He does get stunned on out. We are going to see big damage coming on to Ike's Mikey. He does get stunned. This might be the first blood, and Black will pick it up himself, looking for another lance. Rank 2, and he is going to pop it off onto Fluff and stuff here. Impale coming up one more second. Magic Stick keeps him alive, but he doesn't hit on Black, who gets that last right click. Korok will be able to walk away, but nevertheless, losing both his supports there gives pretty much nullifies all the losses that Black took in his farming last hits, because he got both of those kills, and now he's already got his Tranquil Boots.
Right, so after dropping some hate on Mouz's strategy, let me praise their tactics. That was an excellently executed fight, and it was in the exact right spot to do it. What is going on with the courier here? Sorry. So if you're with Jakiro, the place where you want to make fights happen is choke points, always. And there are just a couple of good choke points in this bottom jungle area, and they picked one and did it at the exact right time. This right area, an ice path here just completely destroys the opposing team because they have no avenue of escape. They can only basically either walk into it or get hit by it. And Black doing a great job of moving into that choke point to partially body block and deal more damage. Actually, he's in trouble now.
He has the invis available. I don't know about detection. It looks like they don't have any, so they're just going to let him walk away. But as soon as those Tranquil Boots get unbroken, he's actually going to be able to bring himself back up and take off at least half of the damage that he received there.
Right. So I honestly do think Mouz are playing this tri lane very well as can be considered by their positioning. And 2 kills is really important. But on the flip side, I don't know. Who did they actually lose, by the way? Was that Magnus, actually? Yeah, Quaco died.
So yeah, getting that... didn't pick off on the Magnus there. Actually did not catch that one there. Was it Entangled started off, or...?
So they were already under the tower.
Yep.
And then just sort of playing Ring Around the Rosie, and I think an Entangle procced.
Alright, so that's definitely a big solo pickoff. So that starts off TC nicely. I mean, he himself is really powerful with this Druid, and it might not be an iconic hero for him, but it's certainly one that he can do so much with when he gets a little bit of farm here and there. Speaking of, his bear is starting things off with that Ring of Protection. What do you think he's going to do with that? An early Vladimir's, maybe?
It could be. It's good with the Lifestealer, not too bad with the Beastmaster either. I do want to say that he's up on levels like really substantially in this lane too. He's hit 7 and Quaqua's only 6, and there's an advantage of Bulba versus Fata at levels too.
Yeah.
So quietly just winning these other 2 lanes means that even if they draw the 3 versus 3, they're actually perfectly okay with it.
Yeah. Now, one thing I want to jump into that's a little bit outside this game itself, but just talking about interaction here with Lone Druid, Tranquil Boots, this is something I've been thinking about a little bit more and more. With the nerf, with the fact that it only gives 25 MS when it's broken, a big beefy hero with lots of HP and armor, is that really the hero you want it to be on? We do see Black getting initiated on a little bit here, but he has plenty of invis to spare, and again, the detection isn't really something that has been prioritized too much. They have Dust on Bulba, but are actually going to see the engagement with the Dream Coil, starting things off to bring down Fluff. Nice waiting Rift. Ix might going to fall as well. Now looking at Pause, he did get roared up by Bulba, but in this 4 versus 4, it was Fata who started off with a huge upper hand, and although they will let the Beastmaster and the Lifestealer walk away, they're capitalizing on the fact that the low HP supports don't really have much to stand on in those engagements.
No, I mean, fantastic initiation from Fata there. Excellent play. When you are able to land that triple Waning Rift or triple Dream Coil, their AoE ability is just the baseline, and it's just incredible damage coming out from those abilities. They're not even bad single target. And then when you apply them to 3 people, actually Bulba is going to cop a lot of harass. Probably not a death, but enough to actually make him really worry about this lane.
Yeah, most definitely.
Huge game from Fata, honestly, so far.
Just, I mean, Bulba in a bad spot has to Bottle Crow sitting on 280 HP.
Black.
And yeah, actually, Black is taking a few hits here, but again, he will be able to bring that back up, has plenty of Magic Stick charges. It's just going to delay how much time he actually gets to the lane. Luckily, Paz has a salve to spare, but it still is in this position where he doesn't want to always be on the defensive. He doesn't always want to have to worry about this position here. He will be moving in towards either a Diffusal or Drum. I believe Drum in this situation, but I mean, not really sure one way or another it could go either way. But the big thing to mention is he's not going for illusions right now. He's going for his ultimate to get some magic resistance, get his lance and his doppelwalk up to get some good escape potential and nuke potential. But as far as his juxtapose, as far as making sure his illusions propagate frequently, it's not a priority now. But actually casting off the dust and the roar, this will be a pickoff onto black. There's nothing that can really be done about it. Even the illuminate to back it up. They go in 4 versus 1 effectively and find this pickoff to delay this farm. So whatever item he's building towards, it's going to be a long time before he can actually bring it to the field.
It's probably Drums, just because it's better in the 3 versus 3 situation. That is going to stay for a while. He was actually, let's note, 2 levels ahead of Korok until that pickoff. So it's very important for Liquid to sort of, if you've earned an advantage in 1 lane or even in 2 lanes, you sort of want to pour that advantage over into the other lanes.
Big fight down on Bulba, but they do get the stun onto Black here, regenerating from Fountain. He's doing a lot of damage to Bulba right here, and Korok gets another big Dream Coil, going in for that Wing Rift onto the 2 supports, exactly how he needs to have it done. Going to Ice Mike, he will drop down to the last right click after the chair stun comes out. Baka walks away on low life. Paz taking a lot of damage with those axes, but they don't power, so they are going to fall back from here. And another favorable exchange for Mouse Sports here.
Was it 1 for 1? Or no, I guess it was 1 for 0. So they pick up Ix Mike. They could have gotten more, except Fat actually had no mana coming in. He had just enough mana for that initial set of spells, and then didn't have enough to actually follow it up. I think if he had, it would have been more deaths for Liquid. So, just a bit, once they saw the TPs in, Liquid knew they had to stay, and I actually think it was very disciplined of them, because they backed as soon as they sort of saved whoever they could, but it was just a tough situation straight up for them.
Looking at Quick, well, right now he is moving up, just getting a TP scroll from the courier. I'm not sure exactly what that's about, but either way, he's actually doing very respectably in this top lane situation. 1 versus 1, melee versus lone druid is generally extremely difficult to pull off, but even though he's not doing so hot in CS, 32 up against TC's 48, he's still being able to get his experience. He's actually 4th in the charts right now, and although he's not doing amazingly, he's not doing all that bad either. We do see, what is up with that dust usage?
Well, just huge baits. Epic quality baits from Black there using his illusion. It stayed up for long enough that Liquid were like, surely that's the real.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, no. I mean, they dust it because they thought they would kill him. And now he moves in on the back of that, now that he knows that their dust is probably on a minute cooldown. Actually, that was their last dust, so...
Yeah, doesn't even...
Really clever play there. I mean, he doesn't get any farm during that time, but he gets mad style points for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. Just baiting it out, using those fake clones, as a Phantom Lancer definitely can do. Now, we do see their opportunity to initiate with the Lance to start things off. Following up with that Ice Path. Ice Mike will drop so darn quick with that Brain Sap. It's going to be a couple right clicks to finish it off here, but they do actually hex up the real Black, meaning the kill has to go towards the Bane. But with this Nightmare, with a little bit of extra burst, it's also going to be enough to pick off Lion. So Bulba had Invis, he actually has popped it off, but might just have to use it for an escape mechanic because they really don't have much more hope to actually get a kill here. The Fiend's Grip trying to close in on Korok, but doesn't have the movement speed to lock him down.
The level 1 boots weren't quite enough there. I'm questioning the positioning from Liquid here. This is like the 2nd or 3rd time that they've just been kind of really weirdly positioned, or Korok is, or Bulba is in the process of rotating over, and they sort of end up in a fight like way before he actually shows up. And once you lose Fluff and IX Mike, like you can't, the Beastmaster and Lifestealer are not going to carry that fight for you. Like you really need the sort of holistic, the entire team to be there.
Yeah, so one thing that is going the way of Liquid, which there's not too many to highlight on, so I will mention that they did take the Tier 1 tower. TC was able to get the last hit despite Fanta's best efforts trying to deny it on out. We do see also them getting a little bit more control of the ward situation by centering down and eliminating one of the lane wards here. They have one deep in enemy territory here for that lane ward, so they have good understanding here with the Infest coming out of the invisible Bulba. He TP'd on in, got the roar off, trying to burst down Black. I think they will be able to get him indeed. Yeah. And yeah, that is going to be 1 kill. Korok, no open wounds though, so they're relying on the bear to try to get one of those magical first hit entangles onto Pause. Instead, he's just going to dodge into the trees, and he will fall one way or another. Nightmare delays it, actually trying to pull him on out. There's no real hope for him in the end though.
This tower kill is a pretty big deal. It opens up the space for them. They already have the ward. Just to pinch Black, again, constrict the amount of area he's able to farm in. And as a second order effect, I mean, that ends up with less farm. It's hard to sort of see on the score maps or whatever, but that will make it much more difficult, especially because Liquid are able to just like you said, they can Nyxon plane you down in your jungle if they have vision and map control of it. And so it's just going to be a more and more dangerous situation for Black. I still think Mouz are in okay shape. They're actually behind on gold somewhat substantially because TC has been free farming top a lot. And
goes in, gets the drink while the waning. Burst down the line immediately, going in on Mike to follow it up, but I don't think he wants to go in too deep. The bear in close proximity, he is going to fall himself back, but finding an easy, quick pickoff is really, really what they need to keep on happening, and kind of capitalizing on the fact that the enemy... actually, Fiend's Grip on mid. Korok, terrible, terrible spot. He does have that infest, but he doesn't get the chance to use it. Instead, just gets dropped down with good commitment coming in between Paz and Alex specifically.
God, I don't know about the positioning in this game in general, Blaze. I feel like of these 14 deaths that people have had in this game are like 10 or 11 have just been like kind of unforced errors in my opinion. Finishing off with that Korok, why be there solo when you have no one else on your team, even on your side of the map? I don't know. I mean, because obviously Fiend's Grip, it's going to hit you no matter what, and then they have so much to follow on from that. Mouz, I mean, it's not like they sort of messed up at all there. They were perfect coordination with the Ice Path, the Fiend's Grip, and the Waning Rift, and there was just no hope at all for Korok there.
Yeah, that was not a good spot to be in, and he, of course, pays for it there. I gotta say one thing, though, is that Ix Mike has been on the ball with Sentry Wards, actually dewarding 2 in a row. Now, pretty much, there's no real Radiant Vision in their own jungle there. Once this Tier 1 falls, the map is wide open in the southeast quadrant, and from there that gives an opportunity for Liquid to be the aggressors, which they've kind of been wanting to be all game long. Drum does come out for Black specifically, so in this situation he will be able to fight a little bit more aggressively, but another tower falls. This third tier 1 advantage coming in. Actually, no, they are only up 2 because the mid has fallen to the Puck, but either way, it's still giving them a nice bit of map control. The question is how they're going to use it in the future.
Right. Fata has had just an excellent game. He does have his Blink, let's note. So Blink, Power Treads to give him a little more survivability. This is a great puck, and he's been really, in my opinion, almost carrying Mouz just with great initiation. And Mouz are going to try for this. This could be huge with an RP and a good play from Fata.
They did have vision here. The Boar actually going to make sure that they can't really close in as quickly as they would like. The Roche about to fall, dropping down 500 HP. It will fall to the Dire, but here comes in Fata on the Eastern end, bringing down Mike and Fluff really, really quickly. Bulba drops the Roar off. Actually, only hit on Koikwa, who already skewered on away, but the RP doesn't come out, and that's the big deal. Trying to bring down Alex as well. Nice macro fire, though, is going to set it up. Fata can bring down Bulba, most likely. With the Waning Rift, a couple more right clicks. Bulba trying to bottle away. He will survive, and with the Blink. He got blinked down. Nice. Fata was able to finish off that kill, but at the cost of a couple allies here. 2 supports dropped down for Liquid, as well as the Beastmaster. They only got 2 in exchange, but they got the Roshan, and it looks like TC has that Aegis the Immortal. So, in general, they definitely made bank on this engagement here.
Yeah, Liquid feeling good about that. I actually think the Roar on Koikwa was completely appropriate. Even the Macropyre did pretty good damage, but imagine the Macropyre on top of an RP stack. Sure. That would have just been... Liquid would be dead, period. Just they'd be wiped off the face of the earth completely. Just a situation there where good positioning from IX Mike and Fluff, even though they were both essentially completely sacrificial lambs, the fact that they were standing far enough apart from the rest of the team meant that if Fata wanted to chew on them, and he certainly did, he wouldn't be able to also Dream Coil and Waning Rift the rest of the team. So sort of, I mean, a sacrificial position, but a good one. They lose those 2 heroes in exchange for Roshan and a couple of kills, and that's the best that they can hope for from that engagement, really.
But yeah, but like you said, there is a lot riding on Fata's shoulders. He did so much work in that last team fight. Dream Coil and the Waning Rift onto the 2 supports. It pretty much made it a 3 versus 5 right then and there. If not for Bulba being able to get the Roar off on the Magnus and finish him before he could actually cast any spells, that would have been a complete slaughterhouse for Mousesports bringing down Team Liquid. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily enough in that situation. They had already taken the Roche, just a little bit too much delay. That comes down to the map control and how many wards really were in favor of Team Liquid. They were a little bit more hesitant to drop anything but an Illusion Orb into the base. But yeah, I gotta say, Fata really, really setting his team up in that last engagement. At least got them something out of it, even if it wasn't necessarily what they wanted. They didn't get the Roche snipe, but they were able to bring down 2 supports and even finished off Bulba. So I gotta say, he is definitely in a great position to keep on moving on in this game. Smoke Gank onto Korok here. He pretty much doesn't have any chance that I can see. So,
he's screwed.
Yeah, committing the Fiend's Grip. I'm not sure if that was too much, but I think it's better safe than sorry. Kill secured indeed. They finish off one of the Ancients and they teleport to defend up on this tier 2 up top.
No, I think the Fiend's Grip was the right choice. It's better that than the RP.
Yeah,
it really is a primarily anti-lifestealer tool, so I actually like the use of the Fiend's Grip. He could have escaped, in my opinion, if they didn't use one of their 2 magic immunity breakers. Also, what I really like from Mouz is that Black has gotten involved in this game in a way that he totally did in the last game. You can see that he's actually 5-2-2, so this Phantom Lancer has participated in more than half of their kills. In the beginning, that's because they were all in the place where he happened to be anyway, but even since then, Black has just been far more active on the PL than the Faceless Void, and that's partially hero choice, but partially just the fact that he's just been a little more involved this time. And building towards his Diffusal, I think Black's in a much more comfortable position this time.
Now, as far as the teamfight utility items, we do see Mechanism picked up for the Beastmaster. Not so much for anything on Mouz's lineup here. As far as their supports, Alex is moving in towards a urn, and that's about it. Has a magic wand, has the urn, and he doesn't really have much more to write home about. Same thing with Pause. He does have 630 gold, but again, just sitting on magic wand and boots, it gives them the potential to stay in and actually fight. But as far as that mechanism, they don't really have too much hope for anybody building it within the next, let's say, 8 minutes.
Not having a mech is definitely a big deal, but the good news for Mouz is that they don't have the same support level deficiency that I think actually was killer for them in the last game. Pause is actually a level ahead of Fluff, and Alex is a level ahead of IX Mike. So, like I said, support levels would be just as important, if not more so, in this game, and they've gotten them. Especially, that Fiend's Grip has already been responsible for 2 kills, and if Pause had never hit that Fiend's Grip, I mean, they wouldn't have those kills.
Yeah, exactly.
Trivial of a statement.
Picking off Korok twice, and he already has it off cooldown. Like, that is such a short cooldown that he can afford to make sure that it's committed to. Even if there's a chance to escape, that's always going to ease their fears. They can just go on in and make sure it will net the kill, and that's going to be really, really important. We do see pressure coming up on the top tier 1, already fortifying it out, as there was some damage coming in on the mid tier 2, but now we do see down on bottom. This is a huge right-click damage from this Armlet Bear, already finishing off the tower with one last right-click. Magnus has Blink, though, roaring out on Puck. He does get his Dream Coil, but nothing more, as Fata immediately gets dropped down, and without Fata, they really can't engage on anything. They'll be able to do some damage, maybe finish off this tier 1, but still, they have lost a big set of potential with that roar going out and bringing down Fata here. Do you think they're going to go for high ground?
At least they want to pressure that bring everybody back. Actually, this bear does do incredible damage. It's got the Basher and the Armlet. And does Fata have buyback? He does.
Going on in. No, he's not going to blink just yet, but
they got to get out.
Yeah, here he goes. Blink, but the tier 3 is already fallen, and Poika taking a lot of damage. Has to actually skewer away. I think it was Nightmared as well. Either way, Korok gets Fiend's Grip again. Oh no, not good at all for Korok. He gets dropped down immediately, and they have no choice but to fall back. The bear actually dropping low as well, but Spirit Lance actually hits on Fluff. They're going to look to lock him down with Brain Sap. A couple more right clicks, all they need. Korok Fata's back on in this, trying to finish it off. X-Mike dropping down the RP. Almost dropped, but again, canceling it on out. Looking for more on TC. Shockwaves and slows enough to finish it off. And this is the slowest escape ever from Team Liquid. That makes every opportunity for Mouse Force to clean it up completely. TC trying to survive, but no such luck. Caught out in no man's land, and that Aegis Immortal drops as well. That's, what, 5 for 1?
Blaze, I cannot believe they didn't peel back after the tier 3, or at least after Fata bought back. Oh man, that's so greedy.
Yeah, the buyback.
They had to have known they didn't have a chance. Not even everybody was there.
Yeah. I mean, the RP wasn't even used. Like, it could have been. If they even had everybody there to fight, Liquid still had that reverse polarity. But as soon as that buyback came out, as soon as Fata was jumping back on into it, there was no hope for Liquid to actually pull something out of that. Now, there is a gem on Bulba, so they know he has no threat being invis for the moment, but blinking on in, you can't say the same for Mike and Fluff. They get obliterated quickly, and Bulba actually gets dropped. I'm not sure if he broke his invis, and he met them. He mech them, and that brought him out of invis, so they immediately commit a couple more cooldowns, and Bulba drops, gem is fed, and that's another 3 kills racked up for Mouse Sports here. Just, every little bit of an advantage that Liquid had by putting out that aggressive tri-lane pressure is now completely just in the dirt, as we see Mouse Sports really just capitalizing on every mistake Liquid makes here.
Yeah, I understand that they wanted to hit that particular timing, and so they were like, oh, well, this is the timing we wanted to get down the rack, so we're ahead enough, or we're ahead just slightly enough that we might be able to do it, but just followed up by just an array of mistakes. Honestly, even bringing Fluff and Mike up there, what did they hope to accomplish without the rest of the team? I mean, Bulba was there, but 3 on 5, you know Mouz has 5 there. Like, how could they possibly not have 5 there? And what is, frankly, the enormous strategic importance of that tier 1 at that time?
Oh yeah, seriously. I mean,
well, like, is this really, like, the battleground that you want to make your, like, last stand on? Like, what's the point? I don't know.
Golden Tower, man. It's the one that they had to defend to keep it. No, honestly, there was really, like you said, strategic importance pretty much nil. It's some map control, some gold, definitely not worth 3 lives, and a gem. I mean, that's not only losing 8 extra gold, and Korok getting picked off here. He in his jungle. I mean, that's just good smoke gank action. You can't necessarily blame him because even good wards wouldn't have helped in that situation. But
that's true,
it keeps happening. He doesn't have supports nearby, and it's as much his fault as it is the entire whole of Team Liquid. They just kind of feel like they've gotten a little bit scattered. They have their own intentions with cool smoke play here, but they really, really have kind of lost their momentum, and they don't really seem to have a good game plan to getting it back. They seem to want to start early with that aggressive tri lane, get some advantage out of that, and continue to just build it and build it. Smoke expires, Bulba going for the roar, and a quick one. No! Gets waiting immediately by Fata, and even is able to jaunt on out of that Earth Spike. So just nothing at all. No footholds for Liquid to grab onto here, as even their best attempts to initiate are just falling on deaf ears. Nothing at all for them to work with. The one thing they're looking at here, 1 minute left on Roshan. They might be able to contest that, but RP is still up, and Black has been getting bigger and bigger now with a Reaver available.
Right. No, honestly, Fata's play has been amazing this time, and I know I sort of was hating on Mouz's strategic perspective on this game, but just from a individual play, they have by far outmuscled Liquid. Right from that first blood, the 2 kills down here in the jungle, Mouz has just, partially is that they've just made fewer mistakes. They haven't lost anybody, or they haven't lost people nearly as much. They've punished Liquid's overextension time and time again. Like, the story of this game has really been just some scattered overextensions from TL. Right from, I mean, even for that first blood, they sort of found themselves in a choke point where they couldn't actually win the fight. And then since then, they've been either too far up, or Mike and Fluff have just been a little too close together, or Korok's been off farming in an area that they're not clear as safe. And just all those mistakes have conspired to really cost them a dramatic amount. Now, TC is still quite big. I mean, this bear, it's got Demon Edge, Basher, Armlet, Phase Boots. It's a lot, and it can deal a lot of push damage. The question becoming, can they even outpush Mouz at this point?
Yeah, that's a fair point here. I think with an Aegis of the Immortal, they might be able to deal with it slightly, but they're going to lose a tower at the very least for this Roche pickup. So they're going to be able to get the Aegis, but they don't have, like, one thing I was talking about with the beauty of a dual core setup is you can split your damage, but that means that Aegis is that kind of watered down. It doesn't really matter that you have a second of a single carry because he's not the one that hinges on everything you've got going on. So you will have one person jumping back on into it. You will have TC back up and at him, 2 bears, 2 druids, but they have to make something happen here with the Dream Codes and let them walk away. A haste as well. There is no chance for Liquid to actually clean this up at all. Alex is pretty much the only one left, and if the Entangle that does come on through, he might be left dead in the water. Yeah, they do not. He goes for the TP. He actually gets it. I'm amazed that Bulba couldn't close the distance. Korok did have Drum, used the charge, but Bulba still couldn't close on in for that roar. So either way, the Entangle came on through for the first time around, but no bash proc from that bear meant that Shakira was able to TP on out.
It did proc. Oh, you mean like right at the end? Yeah.
Yeah, the bash didn't interrupt the TP. It's pretty much.
It had to be like he only had 1 auto attack left though afterwards.
Sure. Either way, so now they have Aegis on the Lone Druid, but what do they have to show for it? Like, in this situation here, we were talking about how important levels are for both sides as far as supports go. We have a level 8 Lion and a level 8 Keeper. They're relying on Bulba to provide the mechanism charge for them, so they're not really getting too much out of that. And in general, their static HP, they lose half of it from Puck alone, and then from there, they're silenced for 3 seconds, caught out of in a bad position. They don't really have much more that they can accomplish. So I really think that more and more the team fights seem to be breaking down to Puck finds a pickoff, does a lot of damage, Fiend's comes out on Korok, and there's nothing to answer back. They're kind of key, they're ace in the hole, or up the sleeve, or whatever you want to call it, is TC's farm, because it's actually completely outweighing that of Korok's, but nevertheless, they're going to have to get either some amazing procs or quite a bit more on TC as far as farm goes, if they're going to be able to actually turn this around.
At this point with the is the heart actually finished on? Okay, it's not. Okay, now it is. As I say that, it finishes on Black. The thing is, any lane that you're actually seeking to sort of counter push or push out as Liquid is going to just have a ton of Phantom Lancer illusions in it that need to be dealt with. They burn your mana, they have a ton of HP, and they don't give you any gold. And so it just makes it so much more dramatically difficult, because Black can basically farm this bottom lane because it's the one that Liquid are most likely to try to push in towards the Raxes. And essentially what that means is that it's free farm for him, because it's going to be fairly safe. It's the safest lane. Liquid do have some vision in it, but at this point I think they don't feel comfortable ganking at all, because Mouz do have this amazing counter gank response of the Magnus, Puck, Bane, which at this point is no joke. I mean, let's take a look over to Paz. You talked about earlier how he had no farm, but the fact that they've won so many fights now means that he has Arcane Boots and Force Staff. So Force Staff and 2 Blinks, they can initiate when they want, where they want, and there's not much the Liquid can do about it.
Yeah, that adds in a lot here. We do see the tower dropping down despite the Enfeeble trying to delay it here because they want to enable Fata to put out a bit more pressure, but he is going to be forced to TP scroll back. A few hits will go in this tier 3, but not enough to bring it down, and they're just kind of waiting it out, seeing how this will actually break down. Good timing for Mike's Mike on the Illuminate. Will be able to clear out almost this entire creep wave, axes to finish the job, but now the question is whether they will commit to anything. The Waning Rift is a pretty long cooldown, 15 seconds now. They won't be able to cast it, but this bear is the one that's taking the damage, and it's going to force a resummon coming out of TC right now. So in this position here, he has his Aegis, but he only has 1 bear. They can actually focus the bear more than the TC and actually just bring down effectively the carry, the big fluffy panda, and that forces them to fall back. They don't want to actually have to worry about TC being bearless, and in this situation, if they can't take high ground now, whenever can they?
Right. This is usually the point at which I ask you what they have to do to win the game, Blaze. But I want to ask you, what do Liquid have to do to win a fight? Like, how do they actually make sure that if they do end up in a 5 vs 5, for instance, if they're defending the high ground, what's their game plan in that instance?
Okay, well, they do have the mechanism which will keep Keeper and Lion up a little bit longer, so definitely if they can get some spells out of Fluff, if they can get a good Earth Spike, that would help a ton. Blinding Light the same, but again, the mechanism is on the Beastmaster, so Boba has 2 objectives in the next fight. He has to get the mech off on at least the supports to keep them up long enough to be relevant, and along with that, he has to get the Roar off on a key hero. Specifically, in my mind, it almost has to be the Magnus, because with that kind of initiation, Force Staff, the Blink Dagger, the Ghost Scepter, it's going to be darn difficult to bring this guy down, but they might just have to bite the bullet. The R2, rank 2 Reverse Polarity does a ton of disable, but in this situation, with a Ghost Scepter and with all that potential, I don't know if even the rank 2 Roar coming out of the Beastmaster will be enough to actually take it out of the fight. So maybe a change of focus, maybe trying to just bring down somebody really quickly. Maybe the Phantom Lancer, if they can start off the fight with a pickoff, or if the Bane, if they can interrupt the Fiend's grip. Something like that definitely needs to happen, but
he is going Ags.
It's dicey. So it's just it's really rough. I mean, shorter cooldown on the ulti will be great. Maybe you can get a second target later on when you're trying to clean things up, and you get the range of initiation 950 out of it as well. So it does help out quite a bit in multiple different extents, but again, Magnus is to a point where I think that the reverse polarity is inevitable, and they just have to position themselves really hardcore in making sure that they don't get locked down.
My concern here is that Liquid have to hit a very narrow timing at this point. Black is sufficiently big that they, I don't know, even if they don't feel like their push is that confident, they may need to do it anyway, because just the way that they've built, which is, it's smart in one respect. It almost looks dumb now, but it's actually because it was so intelligent earlier. Their Lone Druid, the Bear, and Lifestealer are really just dealing single target damage. Neither of them have gone for that Mjolnir or anything that would sort of deal AoE damage to these Phantom Lancer illusions. And so as a result of that, I would say that Liquid need to find their game-ending or at least game-securing push pretty soon, or they're going to have a world of trouble actually dealing with this Phantom Lancer.
Yeah. Do you think they can actually take a 5v5 here, or do they have to actually pick off somebody like Black, finding him in the jungle with smoke or something like that
they
to
want
actually make this happen? Of course they want, they would much prefer to be 5 versus 4, but do you think if Black is in a 5 versus 5, is there anything they can do to stop him?
Tough question. I think so with the Aegis, maybe not without the Aegis, which might be why they're currently somewhat reticent in going for it. So they might want to try to win out an Aegis somehow, sneak it through, and then fight. I think 5v5 with Aegis, they still have a shot. What it essentially comes down to is, does the RP do RP, Dream Coil, and Macropyre all three land? If they don't, then yeah, I think they have a shot. If they do, then they're essentially buried. And so Mouz have reached the point at which they're feeling just incredibly comfortable because they can delay. Their chances of winning will rise simply with doing essentially nothing, which is always a position you like when you have the carry.
Yeah. In this position, there's so many different factors of a team fight, whether it's the AoE, magic damage, and disable, whether it's the single pickoffs and who focuses who, whether it's the fact that the carry for Black is just so darn strong. I really think like we could probably spend like an hour segment talking about their potential in this team fight and how to engage it appropriately, but honestly, it's going to come down to pretty much what they choose to do as individual players, and right now that seems to be what Mouz is shining in this game. Fata especially, with this Scythe, I mean, the world is open to him to do so much right here, and as long as they don't get picked off, as long as they go in for the 5 versus 5 in a good engagement, which Roche will be pressuring in just a couple minutes, I definitely think it just comes down to who makes the right call, and Mouse Sports right now easily have the advantage.
Just the fact that Fata's level 17 and the two supports of Liquid are level 9 means that, like all those fights in which we just saw Fata picking them off really, really quickly, it'll be even more quick the next time. I mean, they'll just pop like grapes, frankly, if he focuses any attention on them whatsoever. And that's a serious problem for Liquid. I mean, at least the Lion needs to sort of hit at least a couple hexes and maybe some good impales to make a difference. And if Fluff just dies in the first instant of a team fight, it's going to be difficult. I mean, keep in mind, Koikwa is about to hit level 3 reverse polarity as well. He's extremely close to it, and he's got Blink Force Staff. Fata has Blink Scythe. I mean, it's just a ton of farm on these sort of ancillary core heroes.
Mm-hmm. I do like the wards coming out of Team Liquid, though, that they're about to expire, but for the moment, they've been actually covering a lot, especially this one down in bottom lane. Whenever Black tries to go for a split push, before he's actually trying to invis into a good position, they actually have good vision from this observer ward down here. So if they were looking for a pick, it would be based on the information they get from that vision down on bottom, but Black keeps on shifting it up. He hasn't gone Boots of Travels yet, still sitting on Tranquil, surprisingly, but he is confident enough to just kind of switch it up gradually, now forcing the issue on the top lane, and that rank 2 defusal adds in that much extra threatening potential. But we do see Hyperstone picked up on Spirit Bear. He will have plenty of attack speed for that Basher and for MKB procs. But right now, this is the move that Liquid needs to take, and they're going to be trying to look for an opportunity. Fata, however, he actually just is casting Scouting Orbs right now. No chance to actually get vision, but the fact that he was able to TP on out means that although the smoke will not expire on anybody but Korok, it's just going to be not really any opportunity for them to find a kill.
I think he actually saw Fluff, because Fluff isn't smoked for whatever reason. So that he was pinging it out, like he pinged as soon as the Illusory Orb got thrown out. So I think he saw, and that's a serious missed opportunity for Liquid. It's not like it costs you all that much.
Actually, Dream Coil is popped off here on Ike's Mike, going for a solo kill with the Scythe of Vice. Kind of feel he should have started up with the Piglet, but either way, going off, they do get a Nightmare, and now an Ice Path going on through. Puck gets roared, but he already committed his payload, so this is actually not the best roar, in my opinion. Getting hit really hard. Bash procs come out, but he jaunts away. Boba, no roar available. Aghanim's brings it down to a 35-second cooldown remaining, but the tower up on top lane, tier 3, dropping fast with Black, having 4 Lucians at it's just right next to him, hitting away on the tower, bopping it down. The fortification has popped off. Buyback was committed by the Jakiro, but the tier 3 will drop down, actually be destroyed with no cost at all to Mouse Sports beyond that of the Jakiro pickoff.
It's the Roche. Oh no. Oh, this is bad.
Alright, Dyer picks it up, Lifesteal gets it down, but Korok actually gets caught out. First the Fiend's Grip, now with the RP, Korok will die once. The question is about that second time around. Koikwa pulls him on out of the pit. Ice Path comes on down, bringing down TC. At least his bear, soon to be him as well, I believe. Puck does pop off that side of the Vice and can finish him off with the help of the Phantom Lancer. Korok going on through, doesn't have that cheese. It was picked up by the Puck Fata, and now they're just gonna kind of shamble on away, but Ike's Mike diffused up and dropped down. This might just be it. They have a full minute before TC is up and at him. He does have his bear, but that's still a very, very long time to work with, and looking at buyback, he doesn't stand a chance of getting that anytime soon.
Yeah, it was a gutsy last-ditch effort to try to sneak the Roshan while defending the tier 3, but Mouz cottoned on just fast enough that they just managed to rotate over and completely punish it. And I think that's actually the last straw for Liquid. They made a very, very high-risk, high-reward play, and unfortunately they didn't manage to get out of there
They
in
do see
time.
big damage coming out. The Roar was on Black, but not really getting any damage on him during it. Korok's in the middle of the action, but he really can't handle 4 individuals immediately infesting on out. He will do a nice burst of damage, but they follow up with perfectly timed slows. Great reaction timing, bringing him down, and the GGs come out because there's nothing they can do here. They have parries one at a time. They lose their rack. They're losing every foothold they have, and now every hero is evaporating, just falling by the wayside, and it is going to be just too much for them to handle. A 20,000 net worth Phantom Lancer with great teamfight potential with the backup of his supports. It's really just, there's nothing more to say about that, really. I gotta say that it came down to them giving him the space by Fanta playing an amazing game, and the rest of Mouse Sports following suit, so.
Fanta played very, very well. Absolutely excellently, in fact. You do see this puck with 24 kills participated in, and honestly, Alex not that far behind either. The Jakiro was serious business. Some absolutely fantastic ice paths. The times he clipped somebody on the tail end of the ice path were like, there were a lot of times that few Jakiro players would actually hit, but Alex managed to hit. But I have to say, Blaze, this comes down to execution, and it comes down to just consistent overconfidence from Liquid after they sort of won the first game fairly easily. So many times they fed unnecessary kills on the Lifestealer, on the entire team plus half the team plus 2 towers. There was one particular instance of the game, and if we look at the graphs, actually the graphs are broken now, but if we looked at the graphs earlier, just a huge turnaround for Mouz there when Liquid just overextended. I think they felt like their timing was slipping, which it was, but the pressure sort of led them to take an extremely unfortunate fight that just... It honestly fixed any level issues Mouz might have. It moved Bane from having no items to having a Force Staff and the ability to initiate trivially easily, and Mouz from there just sort of rolled. But I still feel like I don't know if Mouz's strategy was as robust as it could have been going in, whereas Liquid sort of had a clear game plan. But Liquid's game plan didn't end up happening, because every time they just sort of tried to get things together, 2 or 3 people would just immediately drop because they'd overextend or they'd get caught out or what have you. And Mouz, to their credit, Fata playing a very, very excellently executed game compared to his first game. This puck play was fantastic. He generated almost every single opportunity that Mouz had, and the rest of Mouz effectively capitalizing on that as well.
Yeah, so I think we can pretty much agree that the turning point of this game was most definitely down on the bottom lane when the tier 3 dropped, but they committed further than that. By losing so many heroes there, 5 at first and then 3 later, they just pretty much started handing it over towards Mouse Sports. They started getting that advantage, and that's all they really needed to take it to late game because, as you mentioned, Lone Druid, Lifestealer, neither one of them built a Maelstrom Mjolnir. They didn't have AoE damage to follow up, and from there they were relying on getting a pick-off that just couldn't happen. So really well played, smoothly done for Mouse Sports, and really, really nice workout for this lineup. It didn't really seem to have as much cohesion as you and I would have preferred as far as the draft, but they pulled it together with individual play that just by far outshined. So really, really nice decision making, and from there they will proceed on into Game 3. They take Game 2. Liquid did take Game 1 themselves, so we are going to be looking at, to finish off this match, decide the victor, looking at Game 3 for this best of 3 series. So very, very interesting action. Do you have any other closing thoughts on that one?
No, I mean, great play from Mouz. I'm glad they brought it back. Liquid are seeking to sort of secure the first spot in the playoffs, and this could be a big setback for them, honestly.
There we go, there we go. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the commentary, you could tune into the Premier League shows by checking out thepremierleague.eu. That's where we have all the scheduling and everything like that, the website there. And otherwise, for myself, I'm Blaze. You can check me out at twitter.com/blazecasting. That's where I'm going to be updating for any casting that I'm going to be doing in the future. Otherwise, for you, Vikram? VYKROMOND, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, what have you. All that stuff is good. Let's go to Game 3. Cool, cool. Sounds good. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Couple of songs before Game 3 comes on up.